In this video, we're going to carry on our car modeling series in Plasticity, so stay tuned. Hey everyone, this is Matt with Learn Everything About Design, and in this video, we're going to carry on our car modeling series. We're going to start adding a bit more detail and see where we get to. Again, I'm doing this real time as we go through this, so this isn't pre-modeled. I'm not 100% set on what everything looks like, and we're going to make changes as we go through the process. Now, as I'm looking at this model, I am not 100% sold on those front arches. I think that I want to do a bit more work to make those a little bit better. I mentioned last time that we were going to start and kind of work on some additional body line, and we will do that, but I do think it's important that we're happy with the shape. So I'm going to bring my edges back and think about this shape a little bit more. Now the wheel arch here, I am starting to feel like the shape isn't right. And what I mean by that is I think that I want it to come back and not curl under the wheel. The one at the front maybe shouldn't curl under either. So it's a little tricky, but we're going to go ahead and we're going to kind of work on this. So what I want to do is I'm going to select and shift delete those surfaces. Select and shift delete those. And then what we're going to do is kind of figure out what this thing looks like from the side. So I'm just going to start with a line and maybe come down, tap shift, and just take that out tangent, and we'll do the same thing back here and just see what it looks like. So tap shift and just kind of see what that looks like. Let's come up here, tap shift to get our tangent extension. So I think we're getting a little bit closer. I still want to have an arc. I just don't want it to curl under. This is kind of obstructing my view, so I'm just going to hide it for now. I'm going to take this and move it forward and Y a little bit, and take this one and move it back and Y a little bit. You should be fairly comfortable with moving, scaling, rotating. Those are things that you're going to use all the time. So make sure that you are comfortable with doing those kinds of things. And what we're going to do is kind of figure out where this needs to be in 3D space. So G and X. I want it to be a little bit closer to this position. So I'm going to look at this from the bottom. And we're looking at, basically, we want this to be close to where that edge is. And we'll do the same thing for this one. G, X, and just visually get it close. Doesn't have to be perfect, but all we're really doing here is we're creating a tangency reference or a location reference for doing a bridge curve. So the line is just a temporary placeholder, and we're going to do 0 on the front, 100 on the bottom, G1 continuity, and probably G0 on the bottom. Look at this from the side. And if we do G1, it probably is going to push it in the wrong direction. So I'm just going to do G0. And actually, we need to undo that. The reason we need to undo that is because, actually, you know what? We don't have to undo it, but let's go ahead and repeat the process. What I was going to say is the reason we had to undo it is because we've only got that one reference there. But what we can do is take this bottom edge, do Shift D to duplicate, F for freestyle, select the start point of the line and the end point of the line, and now we've got our loft reference. So what we're going to do is, again, bridge curve, go from here down to that point, G0, G1. First one is going to be at 0. Right click to accept. I don't need the line anymore. I can delete it. And we're going to do the same thing on the next one. So basically go from here to here, G1, G0, 100%. And when we view this from the side, those lines should be essentially parallel. So that looks pretty good. So 2 on the keyboard. We're going to loft from top to bottom. This is a boundary edge. And it looks pretty good. I think that looks a little bit better. Get rid of these, don't need them. And we'll repeat the process over here. So going back and forth between my all selection, we're going to duplicate this bottom edge, so Shift D, F for freestyle, start here and here, and then we'll use bridge curve. Now we could do bridge vertex as well, so if you select the vertices and hit L for loft, then that will open up the bridge vertex, and that can work as well. This one looks a bit weird. Let me zoom out, just make sure that it is right. All right, that looks okay. I think it's just a further distance to travel. So bridge curve again. G0 at the end, G1 at the start. Let's set that to 0 or 1. And it got rid of that end because trim was on, but it's okay because we can just add a line back in there. No big deal. And then back to our edge selections, we're going to loft, shift select our guides, and then get rid of the edges. All right, so one of the main reasons I wanted to do this is because I didn't like the transition that we had. I thought it was a bit too aggressive, and maybe this will be a little bit better, but this is also a fairly big arc. Now, a fairly big arc means that when we look at, let's just say, these faces here, so if we look at these two right here, that shape is fairly flat. The shape of the fender flare or the arch is a pretty big arc. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a problem, but if we wanted to do that slightly different, we could bring our edges back, so Control Z, until the point where I deleted those. And we could rebuild these bridge curves. I'm going to go top to bottom, G0 at the bottom, G1 at the top, set that to 0, but the tension I'm going to set pretty low. Let's say something like 0.25. Now that 0.25, I'm going to go ahead and hide this one for now, will give us a straighter shot, a little bit closer to the shape of that. So that would maybe give us a better overall fender shape. So I'm going to do the same thing over here. G0 at the bottom, G1 at the top, set it to 100 and 0.25 for our tension. And we'll hide what we don't need. Don't need that. And it looks like it got rid of that bottom line. It did something very funky, but we can just add another one. That little straight line is not a big deal. Go to our edge selection, and now we'll loft between here. We should still be able to use G0 continuity, but the tension of 0.25 is a bit closer to what we used. Now, it's not really going to matter with loft because it's going to drive tangency, but it's using these guides. Go ahead and get rid of them. But now when we look at this thing from the front, that shape is a bit closer to this shape. So let's see what this gives us in return. So we'll do a bridge curve at the bottom. Going to go to my all selection, say G1 for there, G0 at the fender, and then we'll do a loft. So let's try loft from here to here. We're going to be driving tangency at the fender, and then at the wheel arch, it's going to be G0. But the fact that it used these as two selections means that there's a small gap in here. If it ever uses them as two selections, then that's problematic. So I'm going to go ahead and just use patch. Patch will be very picky with us. And it looks like it's not going to work. It looks like there's probably a small gap somewhere in here. So let's select all and let's join those together. Sometimes just joining them together will heal that little gap here. And let's try loft again. Loft will give us a better shape here. So shift select all of these. Tangency is fine. G0 here. Okay. So the main issue was that there was a little gap between those. So joining them together helped. And we'll join these to kind of heal that section there. And let's hide our edges and just take a look. So from the side, doesn't look a whole lot different, but it looks a little bit better. And I like the fact that it appears that we're carrying that body line into the fender flare. Not the best surface in the world, but it's not the worst. So I'm going to bring my edges back. Now, one of the ways that we can control this is I'm going to go ahead and duplicate that bottom edge since I deleted it. So just Shift and D at the bottom, and then Shift and Delete to get rid of that. And then what I want to do is I'm going to trim this section. I'm going to use C to cut and get rid of that extra little piece that's sort of bulging down. And what this will let me do is drive the shape here. So I'm going to create a bridge curve, go from here to there, G0 at the end, G1 at the start. Remember, we had 0.25. And with our edge selection, now we're going to loft from here to here. We should have tangency here. Shift select this side, G0. Get rid of that. Go to our all selection and join them together. And back to our edge selection. We'll loft top to bottom. Shift select these and shift select that, set it to G0. And back to our all selection, we'll join them together. Get rid of the bottom and take one more look. So I'm going to go to my clay, go to a side view. Looks a bit better. So now what we're doing is we're carrying that body line a little bit better. It's a little bit more straight. Definitely more work could be done here. But really what I was looking for is I was trying to make those shadows look better. Not a perfect solution, not a perfect surface. I'm not going to say that I'm 100% happy with it, but I like it better than that last one. So we need to kind of do the same thing on the back here. And go back to that clay and we'll bridge curve here. So hopefully you're starting to see that this is one of the reasons why I don't or didn't want to do a full series like this. It takes a lot of time and it's a lot of repetition. There's not a whole lot new happening. We're reapplying the same tools over and over again. So draw a line, cut this away, delete that, create a bridge curve from here to there. G1, G0. So again, not a whole lot new is happening here. It's just a process of rinse and repeat. Tangency here, shift select that, G0. And again, I think I'm going to redo that one. I don't like this curve here, so I'm going to delete it. And remember that I want to make sure that we have 0.25 on the tension. Make sure that's at 0. That doesn't look like 0.25. Do it one more time. So G1, G0, set that to 0, 0.25, enter. Yeah, okay, that looks better now. Now we can try it loft between here and here. Hopefully we won't get that funky dip that we had. Select all, join them together. Also join this one so we don't have that same issue. 2 for our edge selection, L for loft, shift select all of these, shift select that and set it to G0. And then get rid of the curve and join it together. So once again, probably not the best shape, but I don't really want to spend hours and hours and hours just tweaking this, but it's carrying the body line into that, which is kind of what I was going for. Looks a little bit better, but there's a kind of a weird wrinkle there. I think just looking at this, I think what I'll probably do downstream is trim away some of this fillet and have more of a straight shot of that body line and then blend everything around it together. Not something I'm concerned with at the moment, but that's probably the direction that's going. So let's see what this is. That can go away and we can bring this back. So now this, let's bring our edges back. Now this piece is not quite in the right spot, which is perfectly fine. We're gonna redo it anyway, so I'm just gonna delete that. All these other curves that I have, except for the front and rear wheel arches, I don't really need them anymore, so I'm just gonna delete them just to keep things clean. Remember, we can always just select an edge and just duplicate. So again, not a perfect solution, but I can always change my mind later and redo these arches. And so I think we're going to go ahead and move forward. So the next step I want to do is build out the side skirt and finish off, for at least for now, this area. So we're going to take a line, make sure that we're in more of an isometric view. We're going to go from there to there. We're going to rebuild that. And then from the side, I'm going to scale those S and S and kind of put them together. GG. And then G and X, kind of pull them in a little bit. And then we'll do one more. So create another line here. We'll rebuild it. Select those two from a side view, SS, so we can scale them in plane. G and Y, I'm going to put them kind of where these other two are. And then G and X, move them in a little bit. Actually, while I'm looking at this, I think I might want to make this a bit more exaggerated. So maybe pull it up, scale them tighter so the transition's a bit tighter. Yeah. And then what we're going to do is just patch those two. So F and then patch. And I'll hide those curves. That kind of gives us a starting point for that body line. Now, it's still straight at the bottom. It's just exaggerated to kind of give us that shape that we're looking for. Now, what I need to do is build that back to connect to the rest of the body. So what I'm going to do is take that curve. Actually, I still have that curve. I'm going to take that curve and just move it backwards. So in X and in Z. So back and up. And then I am going to just loft between these two. So L, but maybe G0 continuity. So that kind of lets me fill in those gaps. I'm going to hit escape actually. The other thing I could do is take this and extend it. And we can extend it until it hits the body. If that's a shape that you're okay with, that's fine. And it doesn't look too horrible. Let's accept that and just see what it looks like. All right, so that looks okay. Probably not the best thing, but it's also not the worst. I'm going to Control Z and undo. And I'm just going to take this curve and move it up higher. So GZ and then loft between these two. So again, G0 continuity. And it looks a bit more like what I was expecting. So all selection, we will join these two together. So J, get rid of that curve. Don't need the other one either. And before I join anything together, we can round this off if we want to, or chamfer it. Actually, do we want to? No, we don't want to. And the reason we don't want to is because of where it intersects with this. If we round that off, it's not going to intersect anymore. So I'm going to take this surface and cut the rest of the body. All right. All right, so let's do body selection, which is 4. We'll select this one, and try cut. So C on the keyboard, and let's see what that left us with. So let's hide this. Did not do anything. All right, so C on the keyboard, select cutter, this one here, accept. All right, now it cut that like expecting. Now we want to cut this one, so C on the keyboard, select the cutter, hide that. All right, so we want to cut this one, C on the keyboard, and that one didn't work so well. All right, let's hide this for a second and just see what we're working with. Okay, so now it got rid of the rest of that, And what we can do is we can select this face and shift delete it. And then actually I want to, what do I want to do? I'm going to duplicate this curve. So shift D on the bottom, hide that. And I want to patch this. So 2 on the keyboard, or 2 on the numbers, F, patch, and just fill that area in. So that solves that. It joins it to the rest of the sheet. You can get rid of that curve at the bottom, get rid of that thing, get rid of that thing. And that's the shape that we're looking for. All right, so we're making some progress. Probably a little bit slower than you had hoped, but we are making some big strides to the overall shape. A lot of this can take a good bit of time. The more detail you add, the more time you're going to invest. That probably goes without saying. But I think what we're going to do next time is start to put together the front end and hopefully the hood. I think that we can maybe get that in the next video. But at this point, let's go ahead and save our work. If you have any questions on anything we've done so far, please let me know. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.